This book is very problematic. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Honestly, I've always wanted to say that. When I started YouTube, it's like the you know what I mean. Basically, I have come to realize that I have a very terrible knowledge on Nigerian history, particularly the Nigerian Civil War. And if you spend a lot of time online, you'll come to realize that there's a lot of terrible intertribal relationships amongst online citizens. Let me just call it that. And honestly speaking, I tell myself, Twitter people are not real. Twitter people cannot affect my life. So why should I care about their opinion? But there are some rhetorics that you find online that make you start questioning the things you know. And one of them for me has been the Nigerian Civil War. I know absolutely nothing, and I mean nothing, about the Nigerian Civil War. And the more you spend time online, the more it seems like the country is heading towards another civil war, which honestly I know that's like over exaggerated, overemphasized, especially during this year is like a political season, so there's going to be like massive propaganda everywhere, right? That still doesn't excuse me not knowing any single thing about the Nigerian Civil War. I mean, the most of my knowledge is this: Biafra, Federal Republic, fought together, people died, people were starved to death, and like that's all I know. I don't know why it started, what happened during the war, how terrible it is for me to actually have respect for it. Like, that's bad. And I'm pretty sure a lot of people share the same sentiment. So I took it upon myself to say, oh, I've noticed a gap in my knowledge. Let me fix that. I was like, yeah, this year I'm going to make sure I read at least 5 books on the Nigerian Civil War. I started with the wrong book. I started with the absolutely wrong book. Hi, if you're enjoying the video so far, make sure you like and subscribe. I'm trying to get to 1K by the end of the year, and your help will help me get there. Like and subscribe, please. My Command by Olusegun Obasanjo. This book is an account of the Nigerian Civil War from the perspective of our former president Olusegun Obasanjo and how he navigated the logistic and moral issues plaguing the Nigerian army during the Civil War. He details his exploit as the commander of the 3rd Marine Commando Division, and honestly speaking, I wanted to love this book, or not really wanted. I wanted to know more about the Civil War. So I picked this book because, hey, it's written by a president, and everybody kind of has this mythos around Obasanjo. It's kind of like a badass president, and some people regard him as like the best president Nigeria has had so far. Yada yada yada. This book is narrated in military style lingo, which makes the book very, very difficult for casual readers. Casual readers like myself who are not so vast in the ways of war. And honestly speaking, from the moment you pick up this book, from the first page, you can tell that this is no joke. Is not the book does not do a job, an olden a casual reader be like, oh yeah, you don't know anything about the Civil War, well, come along, I'll show you everything, buddy. Nah, it doesn't do that. It basically just starts with like war quotes, and then there's like a bunch of like at 0900 something happened, and all that military language. And if you are not someone who is basically like into war reenactment, or you've read a lot of military books in the past, you're probably going to get lost. I'm being serious, you will get lost. And the account in this book serves as an overview of the events rather than a detailed exploration of historical events, right? This leads to like a lot of key details not being covered because the author is basically just like using one word or summarizing a key event, summarizing it like a single sentence, which makes it like, oh my god, you go into reading how maybe the federal forces took back Onitsha, and rather than the book telling you or giving you details into the plan, it goes into some details, but the details it goes into leaves the reader asking more questions than, getting a satisfied answer. And if, let's say, you're someone where you want to study how the rebels captured Onitsha and how the federal forces came into Onitsha and captured it back, you are probably, if you read my command, you're probably going to have way more questions than, answers. The lack of details on the key events in the war can also lead readers to fall into the internal bias of the authors. For example, the rebel forces. I shouldn't be saying this because it seems like I'm reviewing the book as like a fiction book, but reality is far different. The rebel forces are extremely one-dimensional. I know they are not characters. I know these were real people, but the author just paints them as these are bad guys, and they are bad guys because they are bad guys. Like, that's how it feels. There's a reason why a whole tribe or the entire southeastern part of Nigeria decided they wanted independence, right? You can't just brush over that with like a couple pages and say, oh yeah, there's a guy called Ojukwu, and Ojukwu said he doesn't want them to take more countries in Nigeria, and then that's what started the war. No, like, I understand that this is supposed to be an account from his perspective and how he ran the 3rd Commando, Marine Commando Division, right? But you can't, the rebels are people too. You can't just say, wow, these guys are bad guys, let's paint them as bad guys. There's a reason why they are doing this, and the book doesn't even explore or give much historical context as to why these people are doing this. And when the book does, right, it's usually not even the author writing it. The author is just taking extracts from another book to give context into what the rebels are doing. I'll give you an example. Towards the end of the book, where the Civil War was coming to an end, and Ojukwu was basically, leaving the country and giving a broadcast on Radio Biafra. That entire section of the book was just an extract from another book by N.U. Akpan, a book called The Struggle for Succession. This book, My Command, literally lifted, yes, it sourced it, right? It lifted a whole section, almost a chapter, and just put it in this book and say, oh, yeah, well, Ojukwu surrendered, this is what he did, blah, 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 blah. And it's just an account from someone else's book. I mean, if I wanted to read that guy's book, I could have bought that guy's book. I could have bought The Struggle for Succession and just be like, oh, wow, this guy went into details. Like, you are supposed to, I mean, this is a book from the former president of Nigeria. Like, if there's anybody that should have, a proper understanding or give proper context into what the Nigerian Civil War was, it should be someone who later became our president. And at that point, he was a commander. Jesus Christ, there were plenty of people under him. It's not like he didn't know what was going on. He did. One thing this book absolutely gets correctly, in my opinion, is war is a logistic problem, a logistic nightmare. And there is no way you are going into war when your logistics is trash. And apparently, the Civil War is the first major war that the Nigerian army has participated in. Yes, there were some people who were drafted for World War II. Some Nigerian soldiers were drafted for World War II, but not all Nigerian armies were drafted for World War II. Obviously, the majority of the Nigerian army stayed in Nigeria. They never really had war experience, and the Civil War being their first ever true war experience led to like a bunch of like reality checks for some soldiers. Morale was very, very low, and apparently when you're playing war games and and actually being in a war situation is very, very different. The book does a very good job highlighting the fact that soldiers that the Nigerian citizens were basically banking on to protect them from rebel forces, right, were basically untrained themselves and they were lacking in morals. There was a part in the book that highlighted that the fact that soldiers were willingly injuring themselves so as not to go fight the rebel forces. They got injuring themselves down to a science where they know where to shoot and how to shoot themselves so that it's not fatal and they can get like an honorable discharge and just go home. And there was this part where Obasanjo said he came in and then he basically went to like the medical bay and told the doctor to be on the lookout for injuries that might look self-inflicted. He gets the funny part in the book. He's on the lookout for injuries that might be self-inflicted so that he can punish those people and be like, yo, yeah, you try to like abscond, fuck you, you're going to jail, right? Some of them were killed. Imagine this. Imagine a soldier that you're trying to avoid being killed on the battleground, and then you shoot yourself in the leg and try and get the doctor to notice like, oh yeah, this dude can't fight anymore. And then your commander is like, well, fuck that guy, kill him. That's what it was. So there were issues like that, and the book did a good job in detailing how Obasanjo navigated that. But if you are not careful, you might read this book and end up thinking Obasanjo was the hero of the Nigerian Civil War. That's probably if I didn't know better, or if I was not like I'm going into this with like zero knowledge, and I will try and be as objective as possible. I'll read this, I'll be like, oh my god, Obasanjo was so cool. He was a commander. He single-handedly ended the war. A simple Google search will tell you this is not true. Like, this is not true at all. But if you are looking for a detail as to how war can be bad on your forces and how you can tackle logistical issues, yeah, this book does have some things in it. But everything it has going for it positively, there's like a truckload of negative stuffs going on here. Like, bro, the lack of details, I cannot stress this enough. If you read this book, if you go into my command with zero knowledge, you'll probably come out asking yourself more questions than you had when you tried to, when you went in reading. Outside the content in the book, this book suffers from a lot of editorial issues. Honestly speaking, to go through chapter 1 to 2 seems like a chore, with the way the sentences are structured, the way the sentence flow together, and coupled with the military style or the military tone in the language, you will find yourself reading slowly, taking time to grasp the concept being described. And if you are someone who, like me, had no knowledge or have little knowledge on like the details of war, and especially on the Nigerian Civil War at the time, you are probably going to find yourself, on your phone, Googling some things or checking the dictionary for some things, for some war terminology, and also taking your time trying to break down what was said to be extremely, extremely granular so that you don't lose anything being described there. And honestly speaking, the way the sentences in this book are structured, they do not flow. They don't flow. The sentences, they could use more commas. I'm being serious. Like, the book could use more commas. And when you start reading and it seems like you can't, once you start a sentence, you don't know where the sentence starts, you don't know where the sentence stops, and it's like one continuous long read. It makes for a very, very terrible experience. Overall, the book serves as a weak entry point for anyone who wants to get into the history of the Nigerian Civil War. I came in with little and I'm leaving with almost less than nothing. I have a lot more questions than I had when I came in, and I'm feeling extremely unsatisfied, especially given that I genuinely want to know more about the Nigerian Civil War. This book described war as a logistical nightmare, in which I believe war actually is a logistical nightmare, but the editorial issues, the lack of details when needed, makes the book a less than impressive read. Honestly speaking, I give my command. Let's get this to focus. Let's come on, focus. Let me add my face here. Yeah, I give my command a 2/5. I mean, I wouldn't recommend you read it if you are trying to actually deepen your knowledge on the Nigerian Civil War. But if, let's say, you are a huge Obasanjo fan, for some reason, I don't know anybody that's like a fan of any president anyways. You are like a huge Obasanjo fan and you basically want to know more about him, because this book can also serve as like a autobiography in a way. Well, autobiography of that section in his life. This is not the book to go to if you are just trying to learn about what happened during the war. Honestly speaking, the books, and I don't want to get into the controversy around the book itself, because apparently when the book launched, a bunch of like people that served with him or under him basically came out and said, "Hey, yo, why are you capping, bro?" Apparently the book is filled with a bunch of like details that were either over exaggerated or straight up lies. And honestly speaking, I can't tell, because like I said, I have zero knowledge. But a lot of the accounts are said to be like lies and shit, but that's besides the point. I have one more book on the Nigerian Civil War, which is There Was a Country by Chinua Achebe. I have not read it. A lot of people be like, "Oh my god, that book is so good. It really highlights the struggles of the Biafran forces and the people of Biafra at the time. I should read it." Maybe I will get what I'm looking for in terms of like, I don't want the rebel forces to be just one dimensional and described as bad guys. Maybe I'll get more context there. But until I read it, do not read My Command by Olusegun Obasanjo. The book sucks.